Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Andrew Scaff. He's Mike Werman. This week we'll recap the NFL's Week 7 schedule and our betting competition, and talk about the MLB playoffs and preview the World Series matchup before getting into the Week 8 preview for the NFL and our next bets. Mike, what do you think was the most interesting thing from NFL's Week 7? Was it Chiefs winning nicely against San Francisco with Christian McCaffrey? The maybe quarterback controversies developing in a couple of different teams, or more of the established quarterbacks maybe falling off, maybe a lot in the last couple of weeks. What did you find most interesting?
Well, I'm always biased towards the Chiefs, so I was most pleasantly surprised by the Chiefs' big victory. I'm finding some of these quarterback controversies and maybe should be controversies to be a little more interesting right now. I think maybe the one that interested me the most is kind of a combination of older quarterback and controversy, and that is something that kind of developed later as the weekend went on. After Matt Ryan got hurt, they said that Sam Ehlinger, the second year, sixth round draft pick out of Texas, who hasn't even thrown a pass yet in NFL competition, at least regular season competition, is going to be named the starting quarterback for the Colts, who are by no means out of playoff contention. They're 3-1. They beat the Chiefs. They have been in a lot of the other games that they've lost, but Ryan was hurt. He separated his shoulder, but I think Frank Reich said, well, even if Ryan hadn't been hurt, they put Ehlinger in as the starter, and that was surprising.
Well, I mean, why did he even need to say that? Anyway, why was that important?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like it's something that the Telegraph's strategy, I guess.
Yeah.
More than you think. Well, you could say, well, Sam's the starter for now, but when Matt comes back, we'll make a decision or something like that. You could at least leave that up, for future game planning or something. But
does that put more pressure on Ehlinger then to perform, or you think that takes some pressure off of Ehlinger going forward?
I think
knowing that he has some security, he's got some leeway here, not knowing when Matt Ryan's going to come back or could come back.
Yeah, it seems strange. It seems like maybe they're trying him out because they think that, well, if Ehlinger's the answer, maybe they don't need to draft a quarterback next year, because the Colts have been trying the last several years to fill their quarterback position kind of with a sort of rental quarterback every year since Andrew Luck retired. We'll have.
They used Brissett quite a lot for a couple of years. Like every other year, Brissett played a lot, but he's no longer on the team.
No longer on the team. And they brought in Rivers, and they brought in Carson Wentz, and now they brought in Matt Ryan. Now that they want Sam Ehlinger for. I think he has impressed the team in preseason and maybe in workouts, but I think it's really them trying him out to see if they need to draft somebody. But I think that puts a lot of pressure, I think, on Frank Reich, the coach, because if he falters, I think I could see Reich not making another season because of, the Colts taking a big step back this year, not making the playoffs last year, and not really doing a whole lot under his watch. Even though people say like, oh, they have the best offensive line in football or one of the best ones and a good defense and stuff like that, but still. So yeah, it seems like they're giving up on the season in some way, I think, unless there's something, unless he's, they think he's Mahomes in waiting. I don't understand it.
Maybe there's some self-preservation there too for Reich. Maybe he's thinking that if he can shift enough blame to Matt Ryan that might save him another year, at least anyway, at least a chance to keep his job for another year, right? So I think that has something to do with it, or
Maybe. I guess, yeah, it's hard to say. So I was just tell you, I was looking up some stats on Matt Ryan. So right now, Matt Ryan he's thrown 9 interceptions, which leads the league.
in
But
a negative way, I assume.
in a negative way, yeah. But on a per game basis, he's thrown fewer than Matthew Stafford has. His quarterback rating is almost identical to Matthew Stafford, 84.7 for Ryan, 84.6 for Stafford. He's thrown 3 more touchdowns than Stafford has, although Stafford's played 1 fewer game. He has thrown for 2,008 yards. That is good for right now 4th in the league. You know who the 3 quarterbacks are that are ahead of him?
Ooh, in passing yardage.
In passing yardage.
Ooh,
One, Josh Allen. I'll give you this. Josh Allen would be, but he's only played 6 games. The other quarterbacks all played 7 games.
I think Mahomes would have to be one of those.
Mahomes is number 1 right now. So yeah, Ryan has 2,008 yards. Mahomes has 2,159.
Well, it's not that much, not that different though.
Yeah, 151 yards over 7 games.
Well, yeah, and this next week approaching is the Chiefs' bye week. So if Matt Ryan was healthy and playing this week, he would possibly move ahead of Mahomes, but he won't get that opportunity anyway. Let's see, who would the 2 be? I would guess Carr, maybe.
No, Derek Carr has only played 6 games, so he's down to 15-20. He's kind of lower.
Bye week already. That's right. And he's not close anyway. Geno Smith.
Geno Smith is number 7.
Oh,
with 17-12. Yeah, he until this week, past week, he led the NFL in quarterback rating. Mahomes is now number 1 in QB rating, and Josh Allen number 2. Geno Smith is number 3.
Yeah, there've been so many injuries and like quarterback swapping to the carousel with a lot of teams. It's
I'll give you a hint.
not coming up with teams that have even.
Okay, they're two young AFC quarterbacks.
Oh, so maybe Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence is 8th with 1,700 yards, 1,707.
So not Russell Wilson.
Not Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson
does not qualify as young and also has not thrown well this year.
Russell Wilson has played 6 games for 1,442 yards. His quarterback rating is 83.4, which is lower than Ryan's. He's thrown only 5 touchdowns, only 3 picks, but his completion percentage is only 58.6% compared to Matt Ryan's 68.4%, which is pretty good.
So, are you surprised that there is a controversy with Matt Ryan being like that he has been with his numbers compared to these other quarterbacks that don't really have controversies?
Yeah,
or should there be more controversies with these other?
I think there maybe should be more with others, but I don't think there are people behind them that they think are any better. So just for the yards, Justin Herbert has 1 more passing yard.
Oh, Herbert, yeah, of course.
Than Matt Ryan. And Joe Burrow, on the back of his 500-yard passing game last week, moved into 2nd place on yards. So he's just behind Herbert, Burrow, and Mahomes right now in terms of passing yardage. He has more passing yards than any quarterback that would play in the NFC, for example. And in terms of yards per game, Matt Ryan is 5th in yards per game. Only just Josh Allen moves ahead of him. So he's 5th in yards per game. His quarterback rating is 20th out of 32 teams, though, so it's kind of middle of the pack. It's higher, as I said, than Matthew Stafford, higher than Kyler Murray, higher than Carson Wentz, Davis Mills, Russell Wilson, Jacoby Brissett, Cooper Rush, Zach Wilson, many starters
Mhm.
in the league.
And
He has
yet,
thrown the
and,
most.
and, and he's going to be out of a job here.
He's going to be out of a job, which seems, I think, strange, because he hasn't even appeared. I don't think as washed up as some other NFC quarterbacks. It seems like Rodgers this year has been subpar. Brady has been subpar.
Mhm.
We've talked about Russell Wilson and his horrible season, although he's been hurt, it seems like. But even quarterbacks that aren't,
But definitely not living up to the contract that he signed in the offseason.
yeah, even quarterbacks that aren't really considered to be on the hot seat, like Stafford or
I think
Kirk.
Stafford did have some kind of injury in the prior to the offseason.
Yeah, he had elbow issues.
Because he had a surgery, I think, that was somewhat surprising to some, maybe the team
Yeah.
even. Weren't necessarily expecting that.
Yeah, but yes, but I don't think there was no rush to keep Stafford off the field. The Rams are 3-3, the Colts are 3-3-1. And actually, I was going to tell you, Matt Ryan, he is tied for first in the NFL in completions with Justin Herbert. He has a higher completion percentage than Herbert. So
and for the record, what's the scale of the controversy meter for Herbert's job in San Diego?
Yeah, it's 0. Although Herbert has thrown for 12 touchdowns, thrown for 4 INTs. But
Yeah.
as we've talked before, and people I think know, sometimes interceptions aren't always the quarterback's fault. Mahomes last year had, I think, 13 interceptions, but 4 or 5 at least of those were passes that hit a receiver in the hands.
Yeah.
Mahomes' interception on Sunday seems like it was more of the fault of Sky Moore running not a very good route than Mahomes' inaccuracy. Moore didn't have a very good game on Sunday, muffing that punt and kind of
it's for not the first time this season.
Yeah,
luckily this one didn't hurt him as much.
No, the defense bailed him out. What was the most interesting part of this past week to you, Andrew?
Again, like you mentioned, I think it was gravitate towards the Chiefs. But I did think something around that game was maybe more interesting, like decision making wise, when the 49ers actually made the trade for McCaffrey and then rushing him into the game too. I thought was an interesting, weird, and possibly really bad decision. The hope is that he's going to come in, bolster the team, and get a win, and drive them into like the playoff contention. But instead, what happened is he comes in, the team gets blown out, and now I don't know if you have that same expectation anymore. It's very weird to do that and have it go this poorly. I think right in that in that one little window of time, it was just like 3 days between announcing the signing to the game happening too. So it's the decision making there is really interesting. I think it could play really poorly for the team for the long run. I mean, they were lucky that he didn't get injured or something during the game.
Yeah, that could have been a possibility.
That would have been the devastating part of it.
Sometimes adjusting to the new scheme, you aren't quite physically. I guess he had been playing all season for the Panthers,
Right.
but it's a different offense. Maybe you don't know exactly where a block is coming from or something like that in your pass protection, and maybe again it's easier to get, maybe again you're thinking maybe more about, can I remember the play, and maybe you're not um taking the paying attention to the other guys on the field as much as you might normally. But he played a lot at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of the game, and he ran pretty well. He caught the ball pretty well. But then I guess they ran out of plays for him, and then he wasn't in it really at all in the second half. He had a couple carries that were for maybe negative yardage. But I thought, oh no, when he started, he was really, he played a lot more than I thought he would. So it seemed like in that first half when the 49ers were keeping up with the Chiefs, I
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh, he's
Well,
maybe
they
going
jumped
to
out
play.
front too. I mean, they actually had 10-point lead really quickly.
Mhm.
Um, it was probably everything that the San Francisco fans were hoping for, right? Is that they'd come out at home and play well against the Chiefs, and it was looking great for the first, half of the first quarter, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Things started to turn anyway. Yeah.
yeah, I think the 49ers will be fine, especially because they play in the NFC, which isn't very good, we don't think, compared to the AFC. Although there are some, it seems like, sort of um, sort of glitzy record teams with the undefeated Eagles, and Giants only have one loss, and the Vikings only have one loss. The Cowboys are looking good. There are a lot of sort of top-heavy teams, but those teams haven't played really anybody, and I think
Right.
none of them, I don't think, have played really teams in the AFC.
Yeah. And
They've
the teams are going to play in the AFC aren't necessarily the cream of the AFC either.
Yeah, we talked about Philadelphia's schedule being pretty easy so far, and going forward.
Because they don't play the Bills or the Chiefs,
No,
and I don't think the Giants do either.
no, I don't think so. No, I think the NFC East is playing.
No, no.
I'll look them up real quick. The NFC East's schedule, they're playing the AFC South. So
That's
um,
not that big of a deal.
so the
Titans, I
Eagles,
guess, would be the tougher one.
yeah, they're gonna play. So I guess the Eagles also have a game against the Steelers next week as their kind of um, random interconference matchup. But yeah, they play the Texans, the
They do
Colts,
they do 2 games
Titans.
against each other, I guess. The Giants.
Yeah, and they beat the Jaguars already, so the Eagles did.
The juggernaut Jaguars.
Yeah, well, I guess the Jaguars were looking good until they had won 2 straight prior to that game, and then they've not done anything. But yeah, the Eagles are, seems like the best team in the NFC. But yeah, they don't play anyone, and they play maybe they play the Packers, but they don't play really any of the NFC powers either. They've already beaten
Mm.
they beat the Vikings, so that was, and then the divisional teams, but they don't play um they don't play the 49ers, they don't play the Rams, they don't play, I don't think they play Tampa. Again, we thought, at least teams we thought were going to be good going in. So it's it's a so the 49ers, I think, going back to the 49ers, I think they'll be okay since they're in the NFC, and you'll take McCaffrey a couple of weeks probably to get going, but I think they have a bye coming up, and it seems like um, they still might be and this makes the Chiefs look really good. They still might be the best team in the NFC, if at least theoretically. They went to the NFC Championship game last year,
Mhm.
and that was after a bad start too. and then they finished strong. So it seems like that could be the case again. Did you speaking of the game against the Chiefs and the 49ers, were you excited to see backup quarterback, 7th round draft pick, Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy from Iowa State enter the game?
Of course. Yeah, that was great. I believe was the first Mr. Irrelevant to throw a pass in an NFL game. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, he was I think they said he was the first to complete a pass as well. Purdy was 2 for 4. He had an interception at the end, but he was.
We got to do a game though. That's pretty good. It was his teammate, former teammate Breece Hall though took a pretty bad injury at the end of the Jets game. I guess he tore his ACL.
Yeah, he was looking really good, so he's going to be out for the year. But
that was pretty good to see. Yeah, some of those Iowa State players from those couple of pretty good seasons make NFL rosters, be productive on NFL teams. That's been a long time to go past without very many of those guys really making an impact in the NFL.
Yeah, David Montgomery has been solid the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
He got a touchdown last night, I think, for the Bears, and he's avoided injury so far this year pretty much, I think.
And so from the time before I went to Iowa State to partway while I was there, at least anyway, I mean, the team was awful, and they hadn't gone to a bowl game, I think, in my lifetime until I think I was towards the end of undergrad, started grad school. When they finally went to a bowl game anyway, that was pretty exciting. Went to and won a game too. So
yeah, I'm trying to think of Iowa State player. Seneca Wallace, I guess, had a brief shining moment as a kind of multi-purpose player.
That was during an era that while I was there, he played at Iowa State, so I was there for those couple of years. That was fun.
They had some good running. Troy and Darren Davis. Did either of them make it to the NFL?
I don't think Darren Davis. Troy Davis, I don't think did. Darren Davis might have gotten drafted.
Let's see. I'm looking at Troy Davis.
I think he played in one of those other leagues, though. I don't remember which one it was. Was maybe Troy Davis maybe played in the CFL or something like that.
I see here Troy Davis. It looks like he played for New Orleans for 3 seasons. A total of 446 yards rushing across those 3 years.
That's not a whole lot of action.
His rookie year was his most productive, but no touchdown. One touchdown in 3 seasons. Darren Davis. He's not on Pro Football Reference, so he must not have.
Yeah, I think he ended up playing in one of the other leagues, briefly at least. Anyway, I thought in Canada, but does Pro Football Reference have Canadian football too, or is it just NFL?
Well, Darren Davis. I'm looking at Wikipedia. Darren Davis did play in Canada, but his career in Canada wasn't too.
Yeah, I don't think it was very impressive.
Long. And from 2000 2001, so in 2000 he rushed for over 1,000 yards, and 2001 he also rushed for over 1,000 yards for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and then he was traded, so maybe he got hurt or something. It's Troy Davis also played for the CFL, and he played several years, several 1,000-yard rushing seasons.
And he had some huge seasons in college. I think he rushed for 2,000 yards in one season.
2 years he rushed for 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
In both 1995 and 1996, Darren Davis.
He was really productive too. They weren't the same type of back at all. It was interesting to see. How different they were as
Troy was kind of a short little
He's
uh,
more of a downhill kind of runner, like point
guess
him
they
in a
were,
direction and he's gonna go that way.
yeah, it looks like they were each 5'8", so they're both pretty short.
They had no there was no answer for him. I remember there was one game I think he rushed for right around 300 yards in the game where the opposing team knew he was going to get the ball every time and they couldn't stop him. There was no way to stop him. Yeah, those are pretty fun games to see. At least they don't play that style of offense at all now, so it's not they're not going to see that kind of numbers again. I don't think so. There are very few like purely rushing teams now, right?
Yeah, this is like Air Force or Army, I
Mhm.
think. Um, so right now I'm looking at uh, there are several uh, running backs or several players from Iowa State active in the NFL. Two for the Ravens, AJ Klein and Charlie Kolar.
Yeah,
Two for
Kohler,
the
yeah.
two for the Bears, Chase Allen, tight end, practice squad, and David Montgomery.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that Kohler would end up coming to the Chiefs because he's very much a very Travis Kelce like tight end.
Alan Lazard was in Iowa State.
That's right. Yeah.
Player. I didn't remember that.
Yep.
And Ioma Uwezurike is on Denver's defense. But yeah, Brees Hall. I haven't heard most of these other guys. But Jake Hummel on the Rams, maybe. But yeah, it's been they've had a few players in the league, but it seems like Brees Hall was probably going to be maybe the most productive of
Mhm.
any of those players, and he's been hurt. Speaking of production, do you know who is the most productive, Mr. Irrelevant, in the National Football League
Ooh.
currently?
The currently most productive. I mean, I have to guess. I'm probably gonna be wrong on this, but I'm gonna guess former Chiefs, Mr. Relevant, Ryan Suckup.
Yeah, you could argue that. I think that Ryan Suckup has been the most successful long-term Mr. Irrelevant. He's been kicking in the league for almost this is his 14th season, and he's been
There aren't a whole lot of Mr. Relevants I can name, so
yeah he's
that's what I've got.
yeah I'd say Suckup overall. He's still playing for Tampa. He kicked for the Chiefs for 5 years,
Mhm.
the Titans for 6 years, and now this is his third year with Tampa. Probably the most productive is probably Kay Crowder, the linebacker for the Giants. He's the starting middle linebacker, and he's started every game last season, and he's been a pretty solid contributor for them. But yeah, if you're looking on most of those last draft picks don't amount to anything. The last quarterback taken, there've been in the last 10 years, there have been two quarterbacks taken as the last pick, neither of whom played as much as Brock Purdy just did in his last game. That was Chad Kelly of the Broncos 5 years ago out of Ole Miss, and Chandler Harnish out of Northern Illinois. Do you remember the Chandler Harnish era?
Not sure that I remember ever hearing that name. So
Yeah, he was drafted by the Colts, and
should his name be thrown in the mix here to take over for Matt Ryan? Sam Ellinger.
he
Did you
never.
know who the other Colts quarterback was that Ellinger apparently just recently passed in the hierarchy in
Oh, I remember it was Nick Foles, I believe, right? He was the backup, and he was the backup coming in. Now he's the third stringer.
Yeah.
So they have, and Foles, of course, somewhat recently started with the Bears, and I think 2 years ago was the Bears starter, or he's battling with Mitch Trubisky for the Bears job, and they brought in Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the Colts. It seems odd. Maybe you'd think maybe the Colts would go to Foles as their starter if they didn't think Ryan was holding, but that they wanted to go to. Samuel. I think Ellinger is a mobile quarterback, and they think, well, maybe Matt Ryan's more of a statue back there. He's been sacked a lot.
Yeah.
And with interceptions, maybe they just want somebody who can kind of run around and do Kenny Pickett type things.
Right. Maybe just keep plays alive or see what happens.
Yeah, Justin Fields, somebody like that. So yeah, Ellinger, he ran for a good number of yards in college, but not like, he wasn't a Lamar Jackson
Right.
or somebody like that though. So it's we'll see what happens with that experiment. Want to talk about our bets?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
So
much more success this week.
Yeah, this is our most successful week. We were hot. I think our overall season bets are maybe moving now towards lukewarm.
Approaching lukewarm.
Yeah, they and so we both bet on the Chiefs game. That was the only one. That was the only game that either of us missed, and that was so I bet the Chiefs -3. They easily cleared that. You bet I think you bet the under in that game, right, Andrew?
I did. I thought that would be more of a defensive struggle. It kind of looked that way early that it could be, but didn't turn out that way. Yeah, missed that one by almost 20 points.
Yeah, you never know those things. But we both made some fairly bold bets that turned out well for us. Each of us took a struggling NFC Mid-Atlantic team at home against a large road favorite of a traditional power.
Yes.
And I think yours was the bet of the day, given I think Tampa ended up. I think it was Tampa -11 when we made our bet, but after the Christian McCaffrey trade, Tampa over Carolina was up to -13, and you took the Panthers at +11. How that turned out?
Not knowing that yes, that their star running back was about to be traded.
But it didn't matter.
It worked out, and they had plenty of points to give on that one. I think they could have given up 4 touchdowns at the very end of the game and still covered.
They won 21-3, so they could have 31-21 would have been fine. Yeah, that was So that's one of those things where what's going on with those aging quarterbacks? What is happening to Tom Brady? What's happening to Tampa Bay? Same thing could be said for my bet on Washington. They were at +5.5 over the Packers. The Packers have been struggling lately, but I think a lot of people thought the Packers would win handily over Washington because Carson Wentz was out as well, and Taylor Heineke, the backup, was in. I still thought that Washington could handle them, and they ended up actually winning that game outright over the Packers 23-21. So both of our kind of big NFC home underdogs won for us against 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of the last few decades, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Sometimes those big spreads are one way to get some extra leverage, I guess, right?
Sometimes the big spreads are there for a reason, and sometimes they're just you kind of have to remember, though, most NFL games end up being pretty close. They end up being within 1 score. And what was your final bet?
Their pick was I had the Jets +3 at Jacksonville, and that one went well also.
Yeah, the Giants won on the last play, but you still would have been fine had the Giants allowed that Jacksonville.
Because even if they scored the touchdown, they would have covered the spread by either 1 or 2 points, depending on
Yeah, it was
they decided to go for 2 for some reason.
yeah, it was curious that I guess you thought the Jacksonville was favored despite having a much inferior record.
Seemingly,
But
even though
the
they're
Giants have been winning a lot of close games.
yeah.
I I picked them as a dark horse playoff contender early on, and it seems like they
But you've
probably
been unwilling to bet on them.
no, I haven't bet on them.
So
Well,
I listened to somebody that says they're a winner, even though they're not actually betting on them. Yeah?
all their games have been very, very close, and but it seems like they're probably going to make the playoffs. They've won 6 games already. You might be able to make the playoffs in the NFC with 9 wins, 10 wins. They only have to win 3 or 4 out of their next 10 probably to get into the playoffs. It seems like that's very
They
possible.
have a lot of division games left, so
Mhm.
there's opportunity to
Yeah, I don't think
have a win
they
or
play.
two.
Yeah, they play Washington.
Mhm.
I guess they have the Eagles and the Cowboys again, but end
Typically,
of
those games are those rivalry games. Basically, anything can happen. So even if the Cowboys suddenly look amazing, they can still drop a game easily. Against the Giants.
yeah, that's true. The Giants schedule. Let's see what it. So they play next week at the Seahawks, home against the Texans. You gotta think that's a win. Home against the Lions. You think that's a win?
I don't necessarily think the game against the Seahawks is a win.
At Seattle.
Yeah,
It could be.
that's actually on my bets this week coming up.
Ooh,
So
it could be. And then there's at Cowboys, Commanders, Eagles. It was like they have the Colts and the Vikings and mostly division games after that. So these next 3 games I think are probably key because their schedule I think gets a little tougher after those. But yeah, those surprising G-men are keeping strong in the NFC East. Staking sort of with the NFC East was my third bet, and that was the Cowboys hosting the Lions, a battle of the Thanksgiving hosts, and in Dallas. And I think I bet under 48, and it turned out to be well under. Cowboys won 24-6, and so that was only a 30 point total.
were you worried about a 3 touchdown outburst at the very end of the game just to blow it?
No, not with Dallas playing either offense or defense because they can't. Their offense isn't very high powered, and their defense is pretty good, so they wouldn't allow that sort of thing to happen. But the Lions are kind of the king of garbage time points. However, it seems like going back to Matthew Stafford's days, where they would be down 21 going into the fourth quarter, and Stafford throws for 2 touchdowns and 200 something yards in the fourth quarter to bring them to only
Just
a
to make
touchdown.
it slightly interesting.
Yeah. Goff does some of those same things maybe, but yeah, the Lions have scored a combined 6 points total the last 2 games though, after averaging 30 plus points the first 4 games of the season.
So so where do they rank now in points per game?
Well,
they have to have dropped dramatically.
Yes, I'm sure they have.
It's pretty tough to overcome. Yeah. What is it? Would you say it was 6 points combined
In the last 2 games? They were shut out by New England, and then
that's right. It was like 29-0 game.
29-0, and then they scored 6 points. So right now the Lions have scored 146 points in 6 games. So what's 20, about 24 points per game, a little over 24 points per game. And they are behind in points per game now in the NFC. They're behind the Eagles. They are the highest scoring team in their division, despite playing only 6 games. Each of their fellow division rivals have played either 6 or 7 games. So they're I think they're still maybe fourth in the NFC in scoring by my quick calculation.
Quick view. Yeah.
Yeah. Slightly over 26 points per game. The Chiefs are leading with like 31 or something points a game. So they're not that far behind even with those two bad games, but it seems like they're really slipping.
I think the scoring has been down quite a bit this season too, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Overall, yeah.
Yeah, it's been so far, at least as of last week, the NFL teams together, teams by themselves are averaging 21.6 points per game. Teams averaged 23 points per game in 2021, 24.8 points per game in 2020. So
Yeah,
that would
across
be,
the league, that's pretty significant. To be
yeah, that's the,
It's usually not very easy for like one team to, affect the overall point totals that much, right? So it's not just like, one team isn't carrying their weight.
oh yeah, I'm looking right now. Yeah, so 2022 teams are scoring 21.7. That's the lowest total since 2017 when they also scored 21.7. Going back to, seems like points have stayed fairly stagnant since 1994. That was they scored 20.3 points per game, and they've been over 20 points per game since. Prior to that, there were a few years where teams were scoring less than 20 points per game, but going back to 1943, teams have scored at least 18 points per game, I think, in all but one season.
Wow.
1977 was the low. There were only 17.2 points per game scored in 1977. I don't know what was happening in 1977 that made those. That
may have been a strike year or something.
Yeah, interesting. 1977 season. That was when the Denver Broncos were in their first Super Bowl and they lost to the Dallas Cowboys that year. But
should we shift gears?
Shift gears. Let's talk a little bit about baseball.
Sure.
Well, so we've reached World Series time in baseball. We have the League Championship Series both come to an end fairly quickly.
Quick end, yes, yeah.
The National League lasted longer. That was only 5 games.
Yeah, just Phillies, one game more than the others.
Yeah, the Phillies won 4 out of 5 against San Diego, and then the Astros swept the Yankees. Any observations from those games?
Well, the Phillies series against the Padres was pretty intriguing. Really, it was the Padres would get runs fairly easily, and then the Phillies would come right back in pretty dramatic fashion, and not let any of the games get out of hand. And it seemed like there were a few gambles that the Phillies made, and every one of them paid off. So that was a pretty fun series, and it should be exciting to see if they can keep that going against the what seems to be a juggernaut now, with the Astros.
Yeah, the Astros just rolled through the Yankees. The Yankees look bad. If their home run bats go cold, which they did, they weren't able to manufacture runs really at all. They couldn't get a hit to save their life. They could walk occasionally, but there were no hits that weren't home runs. Basically, it seemed like, and sort of Judge went fairly silent. The whole team.
Well, even setting a home run record, and then making it a pretty exciting season for the Yankees, didn't keep Judge safe from the home team boos even.
Yeah.
That was a little interesting, isn't it? And then he'll be moving into a free agent see here, right at the end of the season. So you think that's going to have an effect on his value?
I don't think so.
It could be
I
nothing at
think
all, right?
I don't think so. It's a short series. I have a piece of trivia for you regarding the Yankees. Uh, the Yankees have lost 5 consecutive American League Championship
Ooh,
series. That's the record for consecutive losses in that
wow.
round. Since they won. I guess they won the World Series in 2009. They went back to the ALCS in 2010, 12, 17, 19, and 22, losing all 5.
Wow.
They're
That is impressive.
becoming the Buffalo Bills of the ALCS. When they make it, they lose.
Wow. Wow.
Is
How about you there? Anything interesting now you're looking at for the World Series then, or is it?
Oh, I think everybody's rooting for the Phillies. I don't think at least outside of the Houston area, I don't think of anyone who wants the Astros to win. I guess they haven't won a World Series for a few years. They've been in a couple since 2017 where they won the World Series, and they've been in a couple since then and lost. But since they were the cheating scandal,
Mhm.
I don't. Yeah, nobody is rooting for the Astros.
Yeah,
I think we're both pro Phillies now.
I think so. Yeah, you can't
Although
root for
it's,
the
I
Astros.
think
Yeah.
but I think the Astros are probably going to win given the fact that they have been so strong. However, the last team to sweep through the AL playoffs lost the World Series.
All right. That did
That was, of
happen.
course, our Royals, who won the wild card against the Oakland A's. They swept the Angels in the division series, and they swept the Orioles in the
Orioles.
ALCS. But they lost 7 games, heartbreaking 7 games to the Giants. Although you could say that the Royals were underdogs probably in all of those. Maybe not the wild card game since it was at home, but certainly they were underdogs to the Angels and the Orioles, and also to the Giants, who had won World Series and 2 of the last 4 World Series. So yeah, unlike the Astros are not underdogs by any stretch.
These Phillies, though, were believe the last team into the playoffs. And should they win the World Series this year, with only at 87 regular season wins, they would be tied for the 3rd lowest win total for a team that won the World Series. Can you name the other 2 teams that would have fewer wins having won a World Series?
I remember the Cardinals maybe 2005, something like that, 15 years ago ish. I think they only won like 83 games or something, 85.
Wow, you're off by just barely, because it was the 2006 Cardinals, and they had exactly 83 wins. You're correct.
83 wins. Yeah, I remember that, where they just barely made it, and then they won the World Series. The second one, the Royals 85 World Series team didn't have very many wins, I don't think. Are they up there?
The 85 Royals were tied for the 8th fewest wins with 91.
Okay, they're 91 and 71. Okay, so they're a little better than I was thinking.
So they tied with the Marlins from 03, the Reds from 90, and the Phillies from 1980, which was against the Royals.
Well, against the Royals, yeah.
Yes.
Was there a Giants team that?
There is one Giants team in the top 10. It's just outside of that, 88 wins, the 2014 Giants that defeated the Royals.
Yeah, I didn't think they had many more wins than the Royals. So maybe was it one of the Twins seasons?
There. Yeah. When do you think that was?
It was either 87 or 91. I think they were 85 and 77 when they won the division. I'm going to say 87.
87 is correct. Number 2, fewest wins for a World Series winning team 85 wins. And so if the Phillies do this, they would end up tying the 2000 Yankees for third.
Really, the 2000 Yankees were that low because you think of those Yankees teams as being juggernauts and winning over 100 games every season.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Some
not the 2001 Yankees.
interesting tidbits.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting.
The Astros have won 106 games. They won 106 games in the regular season, which is
That's
pretty good.
Quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't fall on the list of fewest wins. They're outside the top 50. Yeah. So the series is a bit of a hiatus, right? It doesn't start till the weekend.
No, I don't. Yeah, because I guess there's all the division series and the ALCS both went quick.
Yeah,
so,
it seems like a missed opportunity because they'd have a few days here where they wouldn't be competing with football for ratings for the early games. It's almost too bad they didn't go ahead and start the World Series right away, like they kind of used to do that.
Yeah,
isn't it just on a rolling schedule? Like whenever a series ended, they just went ahead and started the next one.
Yeah, the 106 wins that the Astros have had is one off their record. They won 107 games in 2019 when they lost the World Series to the Nationals.
The record for wins in a season didn't make the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Astros they won 101 when they won, and then they won 103 the next year, lost the ALCS, 107 and lost the World Series. They actually lost the ALCS in 2020 when they only won 29 games. That was, of course, a 60-game season, but they were still under 500 when they could have been an under 500 team making the World Series that year. They lost the LCS 4-3, so
yeah,
that would have been, by percentage, that would have been the worst team ever.
Oh yeah, I guess this list didn't include that season at all, did it?
Yeah, what was say the 2020? That was the Tampa Rays won that year. What was the Rays season?
Just because this was on the same page, at least anyway.
The Rays were 40-20, so that was a
oh wow,
667 winning percentage. That's pretty high.
That's not bad. What a team to win the World Series after having a terrible season? What do you think the worst record is that became a World Series winning team the following season? The team, just the.
I remember the story when I was a kid. The 91 World Series? It was the Braves against the Twins, and both of those teams had gone worst to first the next year. So maybe it was the Twins in 91.
So the 90 Twins are on the list. They were 74 and 88, but it's there are several teams that are worse than that by a bit.
Huh. So what did did a team lose 100 games and then win the World Series the next year?
Not quite. There were a couple teams that lost. Looks like 93 losses was the most.
Oh wow.
The 2012 Red Sox were 69 and 93 to win the World Series next year. And the 86 Twins were just 71 and 91.
Oh, okay.
87.
So they went worse the first 2 years in a row, probably then. Okay.
Yeah.
How did the Red Sox finish that poorly?
Yeah.
In 2012, that was one of their.
Yeah.
That
was right before the Dodgers bailed them out, right? Because they had all those huge contracts
Yeah, Adrian
Like Adrian
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, and they had like there were like 2 or 3 other contracts that the Dodgers just took when their owner was like going through a divorce and was trying to like tank the team and make it worse so he didn't have to like have as
Yeah,
big of a settlement for the divorce. And
yeah. It
the
looks like
team had to like step in and take the team away from him. And
it looks like everybody got hurt that year for the Red Sox.
yeah,
Ortiz only played 90 games. Jacoby Ellsbury only played 74 games. Euclid only played 42 games. Paul Crawford played 31 games. Maybe got traded, but yeah, they had a lot of injuries, it looks like. But so what's your prediction for the World Series this year?
I think again, I hope the Phillies sweep. That'd be the ideal situation, right? Some like 11-0 type scores across the board, right? Is that I don't expect that though. I kind of expect the Astros to win in probably 6.
Yeah, I think the best would maybe be the Astros losing in heartbreaking fashion.
Ooh,
Like so
not getting just stomped, but
like they get out to a 3-0 lead,
yeah,
and then they lose 4 games to 3,
yeah,
like the Yankees Red Sox of 2004 type of thing. But yeah, I want I also want the Phillies to win, and I'm gonna say, yeah, I still think the Astros. I think the Astros are gonna win because they've just stomped everybody.
yeah.
So,
How
even though
many games do you think
Plucky
it's gonna go?
5, I'll say the Phillies get 1, but
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's the Phillies, but I could see the Astros just because they swept. They beat those plucky Mariners really bad, and they beat the big bad
man.
Yankees really bad. So I don't think the Phillies are. I don't know. I don't think they have the pitching. I think the Astros have
Yeah.
both pitching and hitting, and it's just too much.
The Phillies do seem like they are, rising to the occasion. They're hot at the right time,
Yeah, so maybe.
and that and
Yeah.
that does seem to have legs for
Yeah, well,
for stories
playoffs.
and for for baseball in general. Teams that get hot at the right time
Yeah,
win sometimes.
sometimes. So I think, I think if the Phillies take the first game,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be in it.
No
But
chance.
yeah,
How about we shift gears again?
okay. Talk about week 8 of the NFL. This
One
is the
we may
first
not
week.
be as interested in this time, right?
This is the first week that the Chiefs don't play.
Right.
They have a bye, so neither of us can bet on the Chiefs. But
Maybe saving us from ourselves at times.
there are 30 other teams to bet on. There's only one other team that has the bye this week, and that's the Chargers, which I think usually it seems like 4 teams have at least 4 teams have
Yeah.
byes. This week only 2 teams have byes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's an interesting, just a little interesting tidbit. But yeah, what games do you like?
So I think I'm going to start on the. We've been shying away from the Thursday night games. I'm actually going to go to the Thursday night game first.
Ooh, Thursday night. Those are always unpredictable.
They have not been as predictable of late. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go there to start, and that's the Baltimore Tampa game, and I kind of think that the Bucks are just done, is my guess. So I'm gonna take the Baltimore's favored by 1.5 at Tampa. I'm gonna fall on that side of this bet this time.
I think we can.
-1.5.
I think that we both know at least that Baltimore will have a big lead at some point in the game because they've had big leads in every one of their games so far.
Mhm.
In 3 of those games, however, they've relinquished big leads. So you would hope that they would keep the big lead, I guess, against the Buccaneers. And it's at Tampa.
Get a big lead against Tampa. I don't know that Tampa's going to come back. They
Well,
haven't shown that kind of fight yet this year anyway.
this is kind of a last gasp, I think. If Tampa wants to prove itself as a real contender, they need to beat a good team, and they need to win at home, and they need to avoid I think a three game losing streak. Easily
sure.
that losing streak could be 5 games because they lost to the Chiefs, and they barely beat the Falcons on a kind of that questionable sort of roughing the passer penalty really helped.
Right.
So yeah, they're circling the bowl maybe.
Excellent analogy.
But I think the Buccaneers hopefully Brady, at least in their mind, that they come back. But I think the Ravens could blow the doors off that game too, because the Ravens, I think, are a pretty talented team, but they've been really inconsistent this year. They've been in all their games, but yeah. So I'm not going to bet the Thursday night game.
No.
First game, no. The first game I want to talk about is going back to the AFC West. This is the Raiders. Whom I think I bet on the Raiders a couple of weeks ago, and I was successful. Maybe 3 weeks ago now, and I bet on them at home to beat the Broncos, and I'm going to go back to the Raiders. I think the Raiders are heating up. They're entering a very easy part of their schedule. I think they're going to be favored probably the next 6 or so straight games, and this one they're favored slightly on the road against New Orleans, and I think the Saints are not so good on defense and not very good on offense with that game against Arizona last Thursday night. Andy Dalton threw basically 2 pick sixes in a row, and
consecutive
they
possession.
also allowed a lot of points besides that. So I think the Raiders offense has been really good this year, and they've been in all the games that they've lost. So I think they'll win on the road in New Orleans, and I think they're favored by 2 points. So I'll take them at -2. I think if they win, they'll probably win by a field goal. So I think I like the Raiders at -2.
That's a good lead into my second pick, actually, because I was going to bet on this game as well, but on the over under line. It's 49.5. Both teams they're 2 of the top 3 teams in covering the over lines. I think the Raiders are 5-1 or 6-1, I guess, and New Orleans is 5-2 covering the over. So I'm gonna take the over on this one in the hopes that their trends will continue, since both teams are actually been good at covering on that side of it. Yeah, I'll take the over 49.5.
Over 49.5. Good. My next 2 bets are actually both over under bets. I think this is the first time I've bet more over unders than I have spreads on the season. But they're my first one. I did well with the Cowboys under last week. I'm going to go with the Cowboys under again this week. They're hosting the Bears now instead of the Lions, another kind of mediocre NFC Central opponent. And right now they have the over under at 42.5, which seems pretty high to me, given the fact that the Bears usually don't score very many points. They did score quite a few points against the Patriots on Monday night in that very strange game where it seemed like Bailey Zappi was going to save the day and come in and lead the Patriots to victory after 2 quick touchdowns, but then nothing after that. So we didn't talk about the Patriots quarterback controversy yet, but that game, it seems like, though, on the other side, it was maybe a good game by Justin Fields, and the best game by far for the Bears offense this year. But I think playing against the Cowboys at home, the Cowboys are favored by 10 points in that game, which that seems like a lot to me, but
you're betting on the under.
I'm betting on the under.
Not on the Bears covering the spread.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I could see a game 24-10, 24-14. 24-17 even would leave me under. I don't see the Cowboys as scoring very many points,
Yeah.
and I don't see the Bears as scoring very many points either. So I'm going to go under 42.5.
But that's one you might consider if the line was even a few points lower. You probably still consider that for the under.
Yeah, the lowest this week is 39. That's the Broncos Jaguars in London. I'm staying away from that. There's a 40.5 Patriots Jets.
Because I think
40.5.
if that London game was actually played in the U.S., that'd be a no-brainer almost to take the under on that one. But the London games have been fairly high scoring, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There's a 40 Commanders Colts. There's a lot of games 40.5 or under,
Yeah.
but I'm not looking for any of those. I think I could see that Cowboys Bears at being 40.5. So that's why I took the under. It seems like it's good value.
Yeah.
And
So you want me to should I do my third pick then?
yeah, you can go your third, then I'll give mine.
Because I've kind of like this flow of the teams sort of like looking like they're competitive and then falling off, like Jacksonville early. I think this might be the week the Giants actually fall off. So they're playing Seattle this week. Seattle's favored by 3. So I'm actually going to take Seattle -3 at home against the Giants.
It is a long trip. Seattle's been pretty good. The Giants have been winning a lot of close games, so you might think that one of those are going to go the other way. So I could see the Giants losing to Seattle. They have an easier schedule coming up, but I could see that. I could see that happening. I could also see Geno Smith turning back into a pumpkin and the Giants winning. But yeah, I think that's a decent wager. My third bet is another over under, as I indicated before. It's an under, and it's also involves one of the teams from my bet last week, and that's the Lions. And this is the Dolphins at the Lions. The over under is currently 51.5. The Lions, as we talked about, were a high scoring team earlier this year. They've only averaged 3 points per game their last 2 games. The Dolphins have cooled off from their hot start in terms of scoring as well. Tua is back, but they didn't score very much against Pittsburgh, and I think they were very fortunate also not to lose that game by throwing a lot of interceptions. So I could see another low scoring game here, or I could also see a kind of lopsided Miami win, but I don't think the Dolphins are going to score a lot of points either. So I think 51.5 is a very high total, and I like the under.
Nice.
So last week we went 5-1 total.
That's right.
I think my total on the year now I'm up to 10 and 11.
10, 11. That's right.
So I'm only minus $100.
Almost back
To even money. You are getting closer. Are you
8 and 13?
8 and 13. Okay, yeah. So minus 500. So you're losing less than $100 a week.
Yes,
that's a step forward. Another few weeks, might be back even. So I think things are looking up. Maybe we'll have to take our talents to Vegas one of these weeks.
Exactly.
Any other games on the slate that look interesting to you?
In the Chiefs list week, so it's much tougher to be really excited, for me at least anyway.
Do you think the Packers have any chance at beating Buffalo on the road? Aaron Rodgers didn't want people to count them out.
I would say that's a near zero chance right now.
The Bills are favored by 11.5.
Yeah, that was a big spread, and I if I was going to make a bet on this game, I think I would bet on Buffalo to cover.
Yeah, the Bills are coming off a bye, so they're rested, and
I think they're going to want to make a statement too. Probably.
Green Bay's been in a swoon, so yeah, I don't know. I could also see something weird happening, and I don't know, but stranger things have happened. But yeah, the Bills should win that game. I think there's a couple. The 49ers Rams are always interesting games.
Yeah, good rivalry game.
Yeah, the Rams seem to always lose the regular season matchups against the 49ers. Now with maybe McCaffrey back for another week, the 49ers can do something. The 49ers are favored by 1.5 at Los Angeles. So that seems. Do you think that seems right?
Yeah, it does seem a little strange, but I don't know, man. I don't know that those games seem a little.
The
I
49ers
just don't, I just,
trounced the
I just don't
Rams,
understand what's
San
going on with some
Francisco.
of those.
Yeah, I think, a bad game that seems interesting to me is the Commanders Colts.
I thought you might go to that one.
Yeah, given the fact that it's Heineke versus Ellinger.
Right.
The Colts are favored by 3 at home.
Even with
So
the quarterback change.
yeah, I
Wow.
guess they still think that Jonathan Taylor can handle it.
Quarterback is more of a show than anything else. It's the running back that actually matters. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah. This NFL slate is it's not as interesting with the Chiefs not playing, but it's also a little more relaxing. The Chiefs not playing.
True.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah. I think maybe the Cardinals Vikings might be a good game. But yeah, I think that Packers Bills game could be interesting. It would be. This might if the Packers really got rolled, I think that really could signal the beginning of the end of Aaron Rodgers as Packer.
You think it's more Rodgers or more coach game plan?
I think it's a little of both. I don't think the Packers have much talent at the wide receiver position, especially. But I think Rodgers as well is not somebody who is a guy who brings up his teammates when the going gets rough. I don't think he's a motivator or a kind of friendly leader type of person. And I think it's very different from the mentality that, say, Patrick Mahomes has. He has also basically all new receivers to work with, and he's done much better at spreading the ball around and giving.
We also haven't seen Rodgers screaming at his offensive line on the sidelines.
Well, yeah, we have that with Tom Brady. So, who's more washed up? Do you think, Brady or Rodgers?
I mean, if you're talking about where we are right now today, it seems like they're both equally washed. But I don't know. I think I may be betting against the Bucks for a while here on the in our betting competition. That may be my current strategy, is just go again. Maybe I should also throw Green Bay in there too. But
all right, this season in terms of stats, Aaron Rodgers has thrown 11 touchdowns, 3 picks, 66.8 completion percentage, only 228 yards per game. He has a quarterback rating of 94.9, which is for him pretty low, under 100. But he is. Do you think he is higher or lower than Tom Brady in quarterback rating?
For Rodgers,
Yeah, is Rodgers above or
I
below
would
Brady?
say I'm gonna guess below.
He is slightly above.
Ooh,
And did you know that Tom Brady has only thrown 1 interception all
really?
year?
Like he's generally pretty careful with the ball, and I guess they both are. So
He's thrown
how
8
many picks
touchdowns.
does Rodgers have?
So Rodgers has thrown 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. Brady has thrown 8 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Only 8
Rodgers'
touchdowns.
rating
Well,
is 94.9. Brady is 92.8.
Wow.
So neither of them are, in terms of passer rating, they rank 8th and 9th
Wow.
in the league.
But no controversy though. They're not at risk for being replaced.
In the ESPN QBR rating, Brady is higher than Rodgers. by a decent amount. Rodgers is 27th in the league in QBR. I'm not exactly sure how QBR is calculated. Patrick Mahomes is number 1, followed closely by Josh Allen.
Is QBR, the touchdowns are weighted heavier, I think, isn't that?
I think it's something total quarterback rating. I think it also involves rushing yardage and being sacked and stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean, they're pretty similar in their style of play and how fast they release the ball and their willingness to check down quickly. They're relatively similar in their style, at least. So, I mean, neither of them are going to extend the play, and neither of them are going to run.
Yeah, Rodgers, I guess, seems like he was once more mobile. I think.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He's. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting that it seems like they aren't turning the ball over very much. They just had very anemic offenses.
Well, yeah, long drives without scores.
Yeah, and they're both completing more than 2/3 of their passes.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think their yards per catch are relatively low.
Yeah, yards per attempt. Tom Brady is 6.6. Rodgers is 6.5. Comparison, Mahomes is 8.2.
Yeah.
Josh Allen 8.3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're making a lot of short passes because I think they're using more of their running backs in their passing game more frequently than they probably maybe want to even. But
Brady's thrown for almost 50 more yards per game than Rodgers.
Really?
Yeah. Brady's thrown for 277 yards per game. Rodgers only 228 yards per game.
Wow.
Rodgers' yards per game put him at 20th in the league.
That's got to be well below his average for his
career.
career.
Brady is 6th. Right now, so above Rodgers in yards per game are such quarterbacks as Andy Dalton, Russell Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Carson Wentz. Yeah, some less than luminous. He's on par this season with Jacoby Brissett and Davis Mills in terms of yards per game.
Is that the company you think he's accustomed to keeping?
I think probably not. So that's just been a struggle for Rodgers, a struggle for Brady, struggle for a lot of geriatric quarterbacks. But maybe they'll turn it around, or maybe the young guns will. Who've replaced some of them are going to be successful this in the next coming weeks.
Who will throw for more yards this week as a prediction? Ellinger or Brady or Rodgers? Those three.
Brady's Thursday night. It's hard to predict.
Against Baltimore.
I think I could see Rodgers throwing for the fewest because he's playing the Bills, or I could see him somehow lighting up the Bills. And I think in terms of floor, I would say Brady is the lowest. I mean, the highest is the highest floor.
The highest floor.
Yeah, I don't. And he also might have the highest ceiling too. I think because it could be like the Chiefs game against the Buccaneers, where the Buccaneers are behind and they have to throw the ball every down, and he gets 350, almost 400 yards passing. I don't see Rodgers passing for that many yards. So I'd say Brady is the most likely to throw for the most. Also, given the fact that I think his floor is going to be the lowest, I think realistically Ellinger is going to throw for the fewest.
Right. You don't have to. I mean, the game plan they're going to have for him is probably not going to be airing it out. It's going to be handing it off to Jonathan Taylor.
The question is, do you think he will throw for more than Taylor Heineke in that game that he's playing against?
I think probably. I think they'll try to throw, and if he gets warmed up right away, I think they may throw more than they think the defense is planning for, right? Because it would be, unexpected. So they hopefully will try to throw and not just hand off every time. But yeah, I wouldn't expect him to get a lot of yards.
Mhm.
And the Commanders' defense is actually pretty decent, though.
Yeah. Yeah, for a game of two not so good teams, I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
matchup. A lot of it, a lot of interesting matchups this week. Do you think we want to wrap it up?
I think so.
All right. So we will come back and see next week how we did on our week 8 bets, and we'll see if we can continue this winning streak that we've had lately.
And you got a shot to
Yeah.
go over 500 next week.
I have a shot to go above 500. You have a shot to near
slowly
near
approach
500. But we are that 0-6 week is looking back at us further and further in the rearview mirror, and we had a 5-1 week this week. Hopefully we can continue that next week. And thank you all for listening or watching us. I am Dr. Mike Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Winning Track Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our podcast, and we will see you again next week. Good day.